The hotel room you pay thousands of dollars for could end up being the worst part of your Disney World experience. So which places should you actively avoid? Let's figure that out today here on DFB Guide. Hey everybody, it's AJ for Disney Food Blog. Finding your home away from home on Disney World property is one of, if not the most important decisions you're gonna make as you plan your dream vacation. And there are so many hotel rooms out there to accommodate lots of different types of people, meaning no hotel stay is a one-size-fits-all situation. So today we're gonna be looking at major downfalls of different Disney World hotel stays, as well as alternatives that will make your life a million times easier. Fair warning, there's a whole section of plot twists in here that might seem hypocritical, but I promise there's a good reason for them. So where to begin? How about a Disney hotel perk gone wrong? We're going to start with hotels that have some serious transportation issues. So the more and more I see previous complimentary Disney World offerings stripped away, the more I appreciate what we still have, like the all-inclusive transportation services that take us to and from the parks. But that doesn't mean we can't have our complaints about the trickiest parts of this free benefit, especially when it comes to certain hotels. Now, the first set of rooms you're going to want to avoid are the above ground level rooms at Disney's Caribbean Beach Resort. I'll explain why I'm picking on a specific set of rooms at CBR in just a second. But first, let's talk about the general transportation issues going on here you're going to have to manage. Now, granted, Caribbean Beach is the only moderate resort with access to the Disney Skyliner, which can make traveling to Epcot and Hollywood Studios much easier than other moderate resort transportation options like Coronado Springs, for instance. However, Caribbean Beach is so spread out, so if you're not staying in one of the preferred hotel rooms, which will put you just a few steps away from the main Skyliner hub, then you might end up walking a very long way to actually reach those gondolas. In fact, some of the Caribbean Beach buildings are closer to the Riviera Resort Skyliner station than the actual designated Caribbean Beach one, if that tells you anything. This giant hotel also means that some Caribbean Beach buildings, like the Trinidad section for instance, are way too far away from the resort's main hub, Old Port Royal, which holds the lobby, the gift shop, several dining areas, not to mention getting to the really cool looking feature pool, Fuentes del Morro. It's going to be forever and a day from you as well. Since Caribbean Beach is so big, the resort has an internal bus loop, meaning the buses will make multiple stops all the way around the hotel property to pick up guests. And it's nice that you don't have to walk all the way over to one central bus stop, and you can have a bus stop closer to where you're staying, but there are 8 total stations that each bus is going to have to stop at around the entire resort, meaning your wait times just to get out of the bus loop could push well into the half-hour range. And I'll be honest, there have been times that I've had buses come and they've been full up just because they've gone to other stops around the resort. I've had to wait for another bus. Okay, now it's time to pick on those specific rooms here for a second. Disney's Caribbean Beach lacks elevators. That's right, no elevators. So you're going to have to walk up and down the stairs every single day if you're on any floor other than the ground level. And that might not be an issue for you, but if you're navigating Disney with a stroller or ECV or any sort of mobility issues or, I don't know, luggage, everything's going to be like 10 times more difficult anytime you're leaving or returning to your room or definitely checking in and checking out. So if you do end up staying at this hotel and you know the lack of elevators is going to be a serious issue, make sure to put in a request for the bottom level, for the ground level. They won't guarantee it, but fingers crossed, right? Now, I guess I can't call out Caribbean Beach without calling out Disney's Coronado Springs too. If you're not staying in the Gran Destino Tower portion of Coronado Springs, then you'll be staying in the Casitas, the Ranchos, or the Cabanas, which have very similar issues to what Caribbean Beach has to deal with. They are spread out, very spread out, and they also include that internal bus loop. Say it ain't so. If you're placed in the Ranchos section of the hotel, you're going to be farthest away from everything, from Gran Destino Tower, from El Centro Resort Hub, from the dig site pool, from the assortment of restaurants, from the gift shop, everything. Even if the stamina of your group starts off strong, and even if you think all that extra walking will be okay, you're still dealing with a whole chunk of your vacation time just walking from location to location, so your feet might be able to take it, but the timeline of your itinerary could say otherwise. Now, of course, as expected, we're going to pick a little bit in this video on the all-star resorts. There are lots of reasons why you might be leaning toward a stay at one of these. They're colorful, they're affordable, they get the job done, but there's only one free transportation offering that the All-Stars can provide, and that's a Disney bus. Disney buses at the All-Star resorts don't have to worry about an internal loop like Disney Caribbean Beach does, though that doesn't mean your bus won't hit up one of the other All-Star stations to pick up more passengers along the way. But unless you brought along your own vehicle or you plan on paying extra for a rideshare service, you're kind of at the mercy of the All-Star Disney buses, and that can be a pain at the very beginning and very end of your park days. Because Because those resorts hold a ton of guests who more than likely are staying in one of these value resorts to save more money toward their overall park experiences, you're going to see drastically long lines for the bus stops when the parks are about to open and when the parks are closing up for the day. Even with extra buses on duty to pick up more guests at once during those peak transportation times, waiting to get on a bus can be brutal. And how can a hotel that's so beautiful be so inconvenient? Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge in general doesn't have the greatest transportation options since it's one of the only deluxe resorts with bus transportation and bus transportation only. However, you can kinda let that slide if a big appeal of this resort for you is all the fun extras like the top tier restaurants, the gorgeous rooms, full-on savannah with lots of African animals that you can say hello to out your window each morning. But that savannah takes up a whole lot of space because of course it does. The animals are gonna need way more room at this resort than you will. And the way the buildings of the hotel are spread out makes it so everyone can see the savannah at all times throughout the day. In the Kidani Village section, the shape of the buildings comes together to make this stretched out W shape, wrapping around the zebra area on the left and the giraffe area on the right, which is lovely, but many of the rooms are tacked on at the end of a very long hallway arm for these buildings. In the Pumbaa section of Kidani Village, which is where I have stayed, you might get to see some nice views of giraffe, but you're gonna have quite the trek to get anywhere because you're literally gonna have to walk the wraparound length of a full-on savannah before you finally reach the hotel lobby. When I stayed there, I figured out I could order a minivan to pick me up in the Pumbaa section of the parking garage instead of in the hotel lobby because it was so far away. No, don't get me wrong. I know it sounds like I'm anti-walking. I am not. I love walking. I go walking every single day. However, when you're on a Disney vacation, being able to pace yourself and save your steps where and when you can is going to be key to helping you prevent hitting that wall early on in your trip. So when I call out these resorts for their extremely long walks to get anywhere, then you know it's bad. So where should you stay instead? To be fair, Disney buses can be a pain no matter which hotel you stay at, whether you're paying $600 or $1,000 a night or $200 a night. Sometimes it'll take forever and a day for a bus to show up, or you might end up getting stuck behind a large school group that causes you to have to wait for the next bus, or you might have to stand throughout the entire ride back to your hotel after a long day in the park if all the seats have already been taken. To be fair, that is a rite of passage. Everybody has to do it. But there are some hotels that'll do their very best to make things easier for you. If you're still wanting to stay at a value resort, Pop Century has a bus system and Skyliner access, so you don't always have to rely on a bus to take you place to place. As far as moderate resorts go, Port Orleans French Quarter might only have one bus station to get to the parks, but the resort itself is lots more compact and less crowded than Disney's Caribbean Beach. Plus, Port Orleans also has the bonus option of taking a boat ride over to the Disney Springs area. And the boat ride might not be super speedy, but it is relaxing and gives you nice views across the lake, greenery, those Saratoga Springs tree houses, and the shopping district. But if easy transportation to like Magic Kingdom is your number one priority, then you're gonna have to invest in one of those deluxe monorail resorts. Monorail resorts, including Disney's Polynesian Village Resort, Contemporary Resort, Grand Floridian, those are gonna cost you a couple $100 more to stay at per night. But the monorail options will make it easier for you to get to both Magic Kingdom and Epcot, though if you're traveling to Epcot, you will have to transfer monorails at the Transportation and Ticket Center. Those hotels are also within walking distance of Magic Kingdom, if you don't mind the extra walking. And I know I picked on Coronado Springs just a little bit earlier in this video, but the resort really is one of my favorite places to stay, just at Grand Destino Tower. Grand Destino Tower feels like you're being teleported to a fancier, bougier hotel with easier access to everything. You got classy indoor bars, a rooftop tapas restaurant. It feels like a signature restaurant minus those outrageous prices. You got a full fitness center, a bus stop right at the tower, valet services if you so desire. I mean, come on. This is basically a deluxe hotel in the middle of a moderate hotel in everything but name and price tag. So if you're gonna stay at Coronado, you want to do it right. So when you arrive at your Disney hotel and open the door of your room for the first time, how do you expect to feel? In awe or completely let down? Maybe that's a silly question, but if you're staying at one of the next resorts on this list, you might get that sinking feeling of buyer's regret as soon as you see your hotel room setup. So here we're going to be talking about theming. If we're judging our hotel stay solely on what our rooms or overall resort looks like, does that make us shallow? Nah, after all, these are Disney hotels we're talking about here. If there's one thing we expect Disney to get right, it's that overall enjoyment value and design work for what they create. So if you step into your hotel room and your first response is, what? Then that disappointment you're feeling is totally valid. After all, you're spending hundreds each night to be here, so you might as well love the design and decor of your hotel. You want to choose correctly for your likes and dislikes. Now, even though the hotels I'm about to call out still managed to get a whole lot of love on the daily, there are many other guests who stand on the opposite side of the equation and consider these resorts to be letdowns. Now, we're going to start with Saratoga Springs. Now, before you point it out, I know that many of the studios at Saratoga Springs were recently renovated, and they're renovating lots more rooms too. Those room remodels are going to extend into 2023, and the details about how extensive the remodels are going to be, if all the rooms are going to be impacted, is still up in the air. And I also know that Disney Saratoga Springs has those super cool treehouse villas that, if you're lucky enough to actually get a reservation for those, provide a unique and spacious experience. But with all that being said, Saratoga Springs in general can be a pretty forgettable experience. If you're competing against other DVC resorts like the outdoorsy Copper Creek Cabins at Disney's Wilderness Lodge, or the Savannah views from the villas at Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge, or even the brand new Grand Floridian Resort and Spa DVC rooms over at the Big Pine Key building, a stay at Saratoga Springs just feels kind of blah in comparison. And hey, that may be okay with you. At least blah isn't tacky, and the rooms still give you plenty of space to spread out. But this hotel really doesn't have much to make it stand out like so many of the other Disney resorts do. The restaurants are fine, the transportation methods are standard, the horses are kind of cool, but this space basically just looks like an Orlando apartment building for all intents and purposes. That said, one of the main pros of this hotel is that it's within walking distance to Disney Springs. It was even better back in the day when Pleasure Island was still around, and there were evening fireworks shows. Remember those New Year's Eve fireworks shows every single night? That was so cool. Alas, that was forever and a day ago, so no nightly fireworks anymore. And Saratoga Springs also suffers from the same type of problems as Caribbean Beach. It's huge. So depending on where you're staying, you could be walking quite a while to get anywhere you actually want to be. And the walks aren't even all that pretty. If you're trying to get over to a pool, you're just literally walking through a parking lot. That's hot and dangerous. Honestly, you could get the same size suite at any nearby Good Neighbor resort, or maybe Old Key West, which is kind of similar in that it's kind of forgettable in decor, but the rooms are massive. So you could consider paying less at a Good Neighbor resort, and that might solve the problem on this one, because you're basically paying a lot less money. All right, now this next one we're going to bring up in terms of theming is going to be very, very divisive. So I want you to prepare yourself for that. I want you to prepare to either be very, very angry or be like, oh no, I get it. Okay, we're going to talk about the Incredibles rooms at Disney's Contemporary Resort. All right, let's be very honest here. We're all family. Let's talk about this. Last year, all 9 floors of the guest rooms at Disney's Contemporary Resort Tower were rethemed to Pixar's Incredibles. And hot take alert, some people think this maybe was a mistake. Now, I like the Incredibles. It's an adorable movie franchise, the cute little family of superheroes, and I wouldn't have minded if a few of the rooms were updated with this IP makeover. But all of them? Really? The Contemporary already struggles enough as it is with a sort of ongoing identity crisis. You've got bold Mary Blair designs, but you've got modern and simplistic designs somewhere else. You got a classy restaurant on the top floor, but you also got a restaurant where Mickey and friends are busy twirling napkins and making conga lines just a few floors below. Not saying variety isn't great, but there's no connecting theme at the Contemporary. It's just a hodgepodge of different experiences grouped into one deluxe resort. And I will be honest, it is my favorite deluxe resort. I loved this place. It felt like 1971 in the best possible way. And the Incredibles room design is not doing the resort any favors. This is one of the most expensive hotels in Disney World. And staying there, I want to feel like I'm in the middle of luxury. And instead, I open the closet and there's Incredibles clothes hanging there. I don't know. It just doesn't work for me. Now, did the tower rooms need a remodel? Probably. Will kids who are huge fans of the Incredibles movies absolutely go bonkers when they see the theming in these rooms? Yes. But in general, Disney, I think, missed the opportunity to hone in on a certain style and make this resort stay less clashing and more cohesive. And I can't wait to hear what you have to say in the comments. I really am interested because I know a lot of you disagree with me. So definitely let us know in the comments if this is a room that you want to drop $500 to stay in because of the theming, or if the new theming has changed your mind about this hotel. All right, so where to stay instead if you don't like the new theming, or if you don't like the theme of, say, Saratoga Springs or Old Key West? Let me tell you about what hotels added Disney IP seamlessly and excellently. See, Disney's Polynesian Village Resort also had room remodels. The new Polynesian rooms feature Moana and friends, and that makes sense. Disney's Polynesian Village is all about the tropical vibes. You see that theming laced throughout the restaurants, the gift shops, the pools, even little arts and crafts setups they have on on select afternoons in the lobby, so the incorporation of Moana's floral accents and influence of Maui's Maori tattoo designs in the details of these rooms complements the already established personality of the hotel, without making guests go, Disney, what on earth have you done? So if you don't want to feel resort whiplash during your upcoming stay, you might want to go with all those island vibes at Polynesian. It's a great look at how you can incorporate Disney characters that'll make the kids happy while keeping the resort classy and true to its original theming. The same goes for those nice, shiny new DVC rooms over at Big Pine Key and Disney's Grand Floridian Resort and Spa. These rooms were recently remodeled to take on a subtle Mary Poppins theme, and I said subtle. Though a popular Disney movie has been incorporated into the design, it doesn't take away from the classiness of these rooms. There's jewel tones and floral accents, and those little details like the glass bird chandelier where just one of the little birds is a penguin, and the umbrella designs on the lampshades to remind you who the room is based after without being all in your face about it. But man, we've been talking about a lot of pricey places here. What if you're looking for a place with great theming for hundreds of dollars less? For a more affordable-ish option, you can book a stay at Disney's Art of Animation Resort. Now, this is a value resort that explores Disney animation, so you can stay in a room inspired by characters from The Lion King or The Little Mermaid or Cars or even Finding Nemo. And again, even though the theming is rather loud and in your face, it's supposed to be that way, much like Disney's Grand Floridian is supposed to keep things Victorian chic, and how Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge is supposed to celebrate the wildlife roaming around its expansive savanna. Art of Animation is supposed to make you feel like you've just stepped into one of your favorite Disney animated films. While Saratoga Springs lacks a really strong personality and where contemporary can't just pick one centralized theme, Disney's Art of Animation knows exactly who its target audience is and embraces its decor both inside and out. Just keep in mind that some of the family suites at Art of Animation can get rather pricey during those peak seasons, but you can also check on those fluctuating prices ahead of time on the Disney World website. Okay, so I'm going to admit something. This next hotel topic is what I always study up on before anything else. Let's talk about these hotels being too small. I'm not expecting a hotel stay to be as spacious as my house or anything, not even a Disney resort stay. But when I'm going to the parks with my husband and son in tow, yeah, I definitely like to feel like we're all breathing kind of separate air. But these Disney World resort rooms do not do me any favors. We're going to talk first about the Tower Studio rooms at Disney's Riviera Resort. For the longest time, I compared the Tower Studio rooms to what I might experience in one of the Disney Cruise Line staterooms, because much like a ship's stateroom, there are a lot of different nooks and crannies around the Riviera Studios where you can store your stuff, but there's not necessarily any room for you. The Tower Studios at Riviera are the smallest DVC rooms in Disney World. For starters, they fit only up to 2 guests, so you're definitely going to be looking at this style room for a more intimate getaway with your partner or solo trip, because treat yourself. But even if you are planning on only traveling with one other person, the studio doesn't have a split bathroom. It's all combined, so if you need to brush your teeth, you're going to have to wait till your partner finishes up doing the business. But the most bizarre thing about this studio is that when you first walk into it, there isn't actually a bed. And that's because the bed is folded into the wall so that you have a couch to sit on. And in order to retrieve the bed from the wall, you're going to have to pull it down over the couch, which means you and your partner both have to agree on whether you want to sit on a couch or lay in a bed, because you can only choose one at a time. And this type of room is going to run you around $450 per night. You know what else you can get around that same price? An entire cabin with a kitchen, living room, porch, bedroom, and bathroom over at Disney's Fort Wilderness Resort. Just saying. That being said, Disney's Riviera Resort isn't solely made up of studio rooms. You can still get deluxe studios or 1 to 3 bedroom villas instead, but these rooms are still going to be the most expensive places to stay along the Disney Skyliner route. Okay, next we're going to talk about the Little Mermaid rooms at Disney's Art of Animation. You may think I'm about to pick on the standard rooms at AOA instead of the standard rooms at one of the Disney All-Star resorts, just because I already picked on the All-Stars earlier in this video, but that's not entirely true. I'm well aware that the standard rooms at the All-Star resorts are slightly smaller than the Little Mermaid rooms at Art of Animation, but there's a big reason Ariel and Flounder's rooms feel smaller in comparison. Over the past few years, Disney's All-Star Music and Movies have had their standard rooms renovated. Now, when you stay in a room with 2 queen-size beds, one of those beds will be able to fold up into the wall as a Murphy bed, transforming the area into a little dining table where you can have a meal in your room or play a card game during the day. And though Disney's All-Star Sports hasn't remodeled their standard rooms yet, Disney says it's in the cards. So down the road, All-Star Sports should have a similar layout to its sibling resorts. Even Disney's Pop Century has had their standard rooms remodeled the same way, meaning that second bed can also fold up out of sight, out of mind. But as far as we know, per the release of this video, the Little Mermaid rooms aren't going to undergo this same remodel yet, meaning both beds are going to take up a whole lot of space at all times throughout the day, which can be a pretty tight squeeze. And not to kick the Little Mermaid while she's down, but those rooms are fine. They're old. Kids are still gonna love them, especially those who love The Little Mermaid, but they're still the cheapest option available at Art of Animation. And they're also oftentimes the priciest standard rooms across the value hotels. And they don't really offer a whole lot else other than the Ariel on your shower curtain and shell-shaped headboards. I can't even be like, well, it costs more because it's on the Skyliner route, because Pop Century also has Skyliner access and cheaper standard rooms with beds that fold up into the walls and have been remodeled. So unless you have a kiddo who's head over heels for Ariel, you might find better deals with potentially more space in those recently renovated rooms at the other value resorts. So where to stay instead? Want to make sure you're not going to be up in everybody's business when you're staying on Disney World property? Well, we've got a couple of suggestions for you. If you're planning an extended stay with a lot of folks, head over to Old Key West. That has 1 to 3 bedroom villas that offer a ton of space, more than any other DVC resort, for less than you'll find at any other DVC resort. And you don't even have to be a DVC member to book a room here. Let's say we decided to stay in a 1-bedroom villa at Old Key West. Not only would we still have extra room because a 1-bedroom can sleep up to 5 people, but we'd also get a master bedroom, a queen sleeper sofa, a full kitchen, full bathroom, washer and dryer, and a private balcony or porch, all for around $600 to $700 per night. To put that in perspective for you, a Finding Nemo family suite at Art of Animation runs between $450 to $770, which is wild considering the Old Key West 1-bedroom villa is 942 square feet, while the Finding Nemo rooms are 520 square feet. Big difference there. Big. Huge. But let's go even less expensive than that. Though it's easy to group the all-star value resorts together, Disney's All-Star Music tends to stand out with its family suite offerings, providing the most affordable suites on property. Family suites at All-Star Music can sleep up to 6 guests and have a master bedroom, family room, kitchenette, and the real game changer, 2 full bathrooms. Now these rooms typically range in price between $290 and $510 per night, and that's just a huge deal, y'all. The cabins over at Fort Wilderness and these family suites at All-Star Music, game changers. Oh yeah, now I promised you controversial stuff, so here comes the major plot twists. One of these rooms was featured on the best hotel rooms video we posted not too long ago, and the other, Disney passes it off as a room you need to pay a whole lot extra for, but the payoff is not so great, so let's see if you know which is which. Alright, we're gonna start with the Bora Bora bungalows at Disney's Polynesian Village Resort. So, Disney's Polynesian Village Resort has one of the coolest room types on property. These bungalows sit over the Seven Seas Lagoon and have picture-perfect views of Cinderella Castle. They're tropical, they're spacious, they're truly a bucket list stay, and yet, they can also be one of the worst investments because these bungalows do sit across the water from Magic Kingdom, and you're going to be bombarded with those Magic Kingdom ferry boat horns traveling back and forth and back again to pick up and drop off guests. You can hear them from Contemporary, you can hear them from Grand Floridian, but when you're out there on Seven Seas Lagoon, that is loud. Some might find the sound of the boat soothing, but if you got a tiny tyke in your room who's going to need an afternoon nap to keep the crankies away, the horn of the ferries can potentially rouse lighter sleepers, and you're going to keep hearing these ferries late into the night since they've got to get loads of guests back to the transportation and ticket center after the park closes. Plus, they start running real early in the morning. So the closer you are to the ferry's pathway, the louder they'll be. Now, those views off that private deck are gorgeous, but that bonus plunge pool, it really doesn't do a whole lot. It's not big enough to swim in, it's not cool enough to feel refreshing, and it's not hot enough to be a hot tub. So it's just kind of like sitting in a bathtub outdoors where everyone can see you. But you know, it's a lukewarm bathtub, but it has a nice view. The real kicker, however, is the price here. Depending on the time of year, you're looking at an average price of $2,645 to $4,790 per night for a stay like this. So you've really got to weigh your options. Is that hefty price tag and that lukewarm bathtub worth those views? Or would you be better off staying somewhere with just as much room and much quieter for a lot less? Okay, the next one in this plot twist section is Disney's Wilderness Lodge Nature Fireworks View rooms. I always get excited when I see Disney resorts that offer theme park views, because theme park views equal nightly private fireworks showing from your hotel balcony in your bathrobe. But then there are the nature fireworks rooms from Disney's Wilderness Lodge, and those can be a major ripoff. Let me explain. Paying for a room with a view of the fireworks is always going to be an upcharge, at least an extra $100 to $200 per night. The same goes for the Wilderness Lodge's fireworks views. But the reason they call them nature fireworks views is because the fireworks are literally being blocked by trees surrounding the hotel. So you're paying extra for a theme park view or a fireworks view for basically the tops of some of the fireworks. Now, it definitely depends how high up at Wilderness Lodge you are. Obviously, the higher you go, the more you're gonna see. So if you do book one of these rooms, make sure you request the highest floor possible. But if that's not for you and you still want to stay at Wilderness Lodge, then save the extra money and go go for a regular room. You can always walk down to the Wilderness Lodge's beachside or boat dock and watch the fireworks from there. But you're still going to have the same issues, lots of forest obstruction. That being said, you will get a full-on view of the electrical water pageant, which performs nightly all around the Seven Seas Lagoon and will also keep your children awake. So the question I asked from the get-go was kind of tricky, since I did technically talk about both resorts in the best hotel rooms video, and they're both technically upped to sky-high prices by Disney. However, I did mention that the Bora Bora bungalows are dream resort stays for many of us, and while Wilderness Lodge has some fantastic rooms, the ones with nature fireworks views are being upcharged just as much as other resort stays with full-on fireworks views. So my ultimate advice, of course, do your research. We've got some homework. Before you completely count out a hotel or dive headfirst into any purchases, take some virtual tours. Our friends over at All Ears have some great and super detailed Disney Resort room tours to give you an idea of what you're really getting yourself into. Not to mention, Quincy rocks it with the bed pillow tests, which is the most important science of them all. And we've also got a whole playlist series going on right now for the DFB YouTube channel, taking in-depth looks into each and every hotel, including all the pros and cons, because no resort is perfect, but no resort is also without those worthwhile benefits either. Okay, so there are some categories for some worst hotel rooms in Disney World. Now remember, these aren't going to be the worst for everybody. We just wanted to make sure you knew about these while you're deciding which hotel to stay in next. Thanks for listening, everyone, and thanks for watching. Drop your worst hotel experience in Disney World in the comments. Please keep it family friendly if you can. As always, this is AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we'll see you real soon.